Welcome to Inside the Firm, a podcast dedicated to small business owners and hosted by entrepreneurs, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko. Each week, they take you on their journey of how to start, run, and grow a business by bringing you inside their architecture and real estate development firm. Get a behind-the-scenes tour of how these business leaders manage their clients and foster company culture while creating new and innovative projects. And now your hosts, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko.
Welcome to another episode of Inside the Firm. I am Al Government Gore. I'm here with Lance Liberty Cayko.
Wow.
We are polar opposites today. We have a great show for you today. Entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. How to be a source, not just a resource. And of course, data on the industry. Before we get to that, let's get to how we can help you out. And how we can help you out is if you go to revitrocketship.com, you look what's there, you train yourself in how to be awesome at Revit. You get more responsibility, more reward, and you skyrocket your profits to 400%. That might not be true. Disclaimer. But if you get more efficient, everyone gets on the same page. Building a template that makes you lean and mean can't hurt. Thousands of people have used it. Go take a look yourself. revitrocketship.com.
ARCAT.com is your one-stop shop for specifications, CAD details, BIM content, and so much more. Whether you're an architect, engineer, or contractor, ARCAT has the tools you need to streamline your projects and stay ahead of the curve. Best of all, it's completely free to use. Start your next product search at ARCAT.com. That's ARCAT.com. Al, I think it's already back to you.
Good. Just to let everyone know, we are part of the National Association of Home Builders. I went to a government affairs committee meeting. And basically what they do there is they have people, they have official lobbyist people. And what they do is they really look into bills, they report back, and the home builders then have a position on these bills, and they try to make it so that these bills don't gum up and kill construction. Because left to their own devices, bureaucracy is going to bureaucracies, and people who want to push affordability plus renewability plus sustainability all of a sudden make too many laws and too many regulations and too many hurdles and make stuff too much so that you can't actually build something. So to say it simpler, if everyone got their own rules and regulations in, then it would just make a quagmire of which we are on the verge of now. So what I can tell you from inside the Home Builders Association is that we aren't adding to, we're trying to chop down the strings that are holding back producing homes in America. And it is getting dire because it comes from increasing water tap fees, increasing city fees, increasing fire always wants sprinkler and everything in the world. And we've already talked about this. And then even the AIA pushes sustainability and green agenda, which I am fine with. But at this point, I'm literally of the position that we need to focus on the source, and we should get the stat one of these days, hopefully next time. I believe it's 80% of new power is essentially sustainable power, because it's so much easier to add solar power and batteries and stuff like that than a whole new plant, right? Obviously, I hope nuclear goes nuclear as well.
Well, in Colorado, that's happening. Big deal. I sent you that. Yeah. We're going nuclear. I agree.
That is it. I am advocating, honestly, that we reduce our standards back to, what would it be? 2015, 2012.
I like 12. I'm staunchy of the 2006 code.
What do you mean?
That's what I like.
2006.
2006.
Yep. And then if our power is
Good
coming,
enough.
if our power is coming from green sources, which I love, I think it's a great thing. I think that the negatives of it, you have to balance with the negatives of building a power plant too. Like they kind of equal out. So I think if we're serious about affordability and building and making houses and making people live lives, like we can have it both, but in a smart way. Anyways, that's the report from the NAHB, and I really, really like what they are doing, because they aren't implementing new things. They're trying to hack back on the lines
and
that
be
are
a voice
holding
of
it
reason.
back.
And be a voice of reason. Exactly. Yeah. they're making a big difference. I think. Yeah. So that's why we're apart. Be a source, not a resource. That's something else.
Yeah.
Skip it.
Lance, the book Conscious Capitalism. I don't think it came from there, but it might have. So if you don't remember it, then maybe it wasn't a big point in that book. So everyone says like people are a resource, right? And resources can lead down to the concept of like a commodity. And once something becomes a commodity, you just solve for the function of like, how do you make it the cheapest that it is, right? And the idea or the concept that I'm stealing from someone else that I can't kind of quote right now because I don't remember where it came from. But it's like, instead of just a resource, like, Lance, you're a resource to me, meaning like you could go frame something for me. You could go design development. You could go get my...
If you would have got that freaking townhouse project in Boulder, you guys don't even know.
The amount of coffee I would have
was going to be 30 days of being his servant.
Yep, it would have been awesome. Right? You can do all those.
Yeah.
Right? The difference between a source and a resource is you just can't be used up. You now create something. You now create jobs. You now get new business. You now can create a new design that actually works, right? So it was just a concept I wanted to bring up, maybe get your take on it if you like it. And I think it has to do with employees, because I think so many employees get into a rut, and here's why. In the beginning, you realize you don't know anything because you just get all this.
You think you know everything. Then you come, and if you have good mentors and you realize you don't know everything, and then you get humbled.
Yep.
But then you get your feet underneath you again, and then what happens?
Then all of a sudden, I think you get into this thing is like, oh, I'm just a resource. I do what I'm told, blah, blah, blah. Even if you are told like in a certain way, I want you to become a source, they're just programmed in this way.
And even your best leaders this will happen to them. As we have a leadership meeting, we have an internal leadership meeting next week. And I'm very excited about bringing stuff up to the leaders that I think they also need to be led. Yeah. And Al and I do too. And that's why we go to outside resources. That's why Al and I have these private discussions. I talk with other business colleagues. If you become, which eventually we're going to get there with, like, why entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. That's the title of this show. But when you get to the top, quote unquote, right, where you're the CEO or you have a business partner and you have like co-owners like Al and I, then like you better make sure you're very, very self-aware, because you need to self-critique. Like, it's so important for you to like continually, not so much second guess yourself. Like, I don't think that's the one, because you could really get caught in sort of a personal feedback loop that just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, or like a loop that just doesn't go anywhere.
Yep. So and that's what I'm getting by is like initiative to think to the next step, to make things happen, to not just do things, but a source makes things happen. And that's the true difference.
Yeah. I got two things I want to talk about here next. Again, from our good friends in the National Association of Homebuilders, like, so thankful. The two quick little blogs to burn through before we get to the main topic here. First one is millennial buyers prefer better, not bigger homes. I was so thrilled to see this headline because I'm so sick. No offense, but slash a little offense to the boomers over there, the most entitled generation ever.
Hot take.
We don't need these giant homes. Like, we do. Does F9 design and build giant homes? Yeah, we do. Right? Like, we're going to do what their proclivities are within reason. We will make our best effort to convince them that they don't need as much space as they think they do. And but I was really happy to see this come up. And I'm just going to read one quote from it. Buyers are willing to make compromises to find the best possible home for their family, said NAHB Chairman Buddy Hughes, a home builder and developer from Lexington, North Carolina. Quote, our nation's builders are willing to meet buyers where they are and construct a high-quality home to meet their family's needs. Millennial buyers say they want a home with a medium of 2,400 square feet, the most requested amount of interior space compared to other generations, according to NAHB. However, more than half, 52% of millennial home buyers said they would rather purchase a smaller home with higher quality projects with amenities than a bigger one with fewer amenities. Like, I we got to get back to this between 1,000 and 2,000 square feet for starter homes.
Well, for starter homes, yes. But then also, too, I think that there is a huge difference. I have designed 6,000 square foot homes that are a waste of space, and I have designed 6,000 square foot homes that are absolutely awesome and not a waste of space. And like it doesn't even feel that big. It doesn't feel like, so here's the difference. McMansion versus just a house that works, that fits, that doesn't do dumb things. You know what I mean? So like, I agree with starter homes, definitely with your numbers, but there's an art, a care, and a craft. And honestly, when you get to that point, if you've made a business, if you've contributed to society, if you want your children to come and hang out at Christmas and have rooms and have whatever, for you, I'm thinking like a man den with just fish all on the walls, just living there, right? And let's say this is 20 years from now, and you're like, now I got grandkids.
I got Phil hanging on the wall.
Yep, you got Phil. They're hanging
That's
out
a
in
callback.
Yeah, thank you. They're 1,500 square foot house. Like, yeah, we can design that well. So it's all about quality. It's all about quality.
Quality of space, quality materials.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So that's a really good. I hope I'm curious what Gen Z says. I mean, Gen Z, I think, is going to be the generation that saves us literally from almost everything. So, I'll be curious to see, like, once they get in the buyer's market, what are they looking for?
You know what I like about this? We'll see if it's true. The trend is every generation just complains about the generations below. But you're saying the opposite.
Because I'm based. All right, the next article here, eliminating. I'm self-aware. The next article.
I am awesome. I am aware of it.
Eliminating excessive regulations will ease the nation's housing affordability crisis, which I was talking about earlier. Excessive government regulations are frustrating the efforts of home builders and multifamily developers to build more housing and address the nation's housing affordability crisis. And so this is, again, just more further proof here. The NAHB chairman and the House Small Business, he testified in front of the House Small Business Committee saying, quote, regulatory costs, which include complying with building codes, zoning issues, permitting roadblocks, and other costly challenges, make up 25% of the cost of building a single-family home and more than 40% of the cost of a typical apartment, said Hughes. Congress and the Trump administration must look for ways to reform the regulatory rulemaking process while also eliminating excessive or unnecessary regulations so that more Americans can achieve home ownership and have affordable rental options. Because if they don't, one of these like rumors that's floating around like X is that like BlackRock's going to own 60% of homes by like 2030 or 2040.
Crazy.
I think 2040.
Yep. So I was talking with a political science professor friend of mine, and he was making the point. Think about conservative versus liberals, and he was basically making the analogy of conservatives have the concept in their head that you can't just tear down historical norms because you might not know why they're there, right? So there's this idea of like fences. If you just come across the fence, the liberal, progressive, communist will be like, oh, just tear down that fence, right? Because like it's a barrier, tear it down. And that means like tear down institutions, defund the police, like all this other stuff. And what they're not understanding is like those cultural norms are probably in place for a reason, right? On the opposite side of that, you can make so many fences that now you're caged in, you can't do anything. It's exactly what we're talking about. And that's why I went back to this 2012/2006 code. How do you reduce regulations without tearing down historical norms that have been there forever? Because we could have said, like, just throw out the International Building Code, the IRC2. Well, there's probably a reason that they're there. It's probably because a lot of contractors and developers just...
We got to get on the same page.
Yep. And so here's the solution. Like
the best markets work with a framework. It's true.
Yeah.
We're not asking for anarchy here.
So by going back to 2006, which I love, or 2012, like you're not tearing down a fence that needed to be there that's holding society together.
Yeah.
Because society was still held together there. You're just reducing it. And instead of going line by line and trying to figure out, it's like, well, let's just back up, go to there, move forward from there. Obviously, people in the know of the codes can point out tiny nuances and stuff like that. And one of them is like, oh, there's new ways of building with stick built, and if you have a podium style, there's a rule in the IBC that whatever the level is above on a rooftop deck is the same below. So it's like if you get rid of that rule, then it's going to kill some stuff. I agree, but how many of these codes and these regulations has killed a majority of projects because they can't get financed because they're overburdened and all this other stuff? More than the code updates that have helped us.
Yeah, and here's some of them, just to kind of cinch this one up. Increase regulations, especially energy building code requirements, such as the Biden administration's mandate by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the U.S. Department of Agriculture that requires them to insure mortgages for new single-family homes only if they are built to the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code, and HUD finance multifamily housing be built to the 2021 IECC or ASHRAE 90.1-2019.
What if they reversed it and they said we will only give the funny
to 2006
with that bill to the 2006,
right? Like you can do the opposite. You can just do things and making it much harder for home builders and multifamily developers to build housing that is attainable and affordable for American families, according to the Home Innovation Research Lab's compliance with the 2021 IECC. Can add more than $22,000 to the price of a new home. But in practice, home builders have estimated increased costs of up to $31,000. Furthermore, it can take up as long as 90 years for homeowners to see a payback on this investment.
Dude, can we just tell the government that that's step one?
Step one. And then I would get rid of the sprinkler requirement for all residential, except for apartments.
Yeah.
Okay, last topic here, and this is the one I was really excited to get to today. And so I posted on the LinkedIn. If you are not following me, if you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, you should do that. I'm the one, the only Lance Cayko, Cayko. Look me up. I will link in with you. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Al and I have been talking about like as we continue to grow and we develop leaders here, and the leaders look at us and how we operate, there's like a little voice that goes off in my head all the time, and it's one of my first bosses. His name is Bruce, and he used to say it. He used to say this all the time. So I'll just kind of start reading from the post. Quote: "I make it look too easy." And then I say, one of my first bosses and eventual general contracting mentor used to say this all the time. Quote, "I make it look too easy so everyone thinks they can be the boss and start their own company, but they all learn how hard it is real quick." End quote. And I would watch, and when he would say this after like some of his guys would quit and then think they're going to go start their own business, and then sure enough, they'd be back working with him next summer. Yeah. Oh, it was like routine. This was routine, and I feel like there's a lot of that happens in the blue collar trades, maybe more than the white collar trades. I don't know. I'm just guessing, because that's where I've seen it the most. Because I've seen it happen to us actually too, where there's some of our former carpenters who went out and started their own companies, and boy, it gets pretty tough pretty quick. So I think about this a lot, and later on in the post, I go, as we continue building our architecture and construction firms, I've come to appreciate how much invisible work goes into making this thing move. The grind that no one sees, the stuff that doesn't show up on a spreadsheet or in a project photo. Here's just a slice of what that looks like. And Al, you tell me if you got any extra ones on this. I was like, gosh, this is a good list. First one is solving problems before they happen.
I like your little emojis.
Yep, with a little wrench. Next one's a brain emoji. Making 100 plus micro decisions a day. Number 3 is carrying the financial weight so everyone else gets paid first. 4, being the emotional shock absorber.
I like that word. These are visually, producing words.
For clients, teams, subs, right? And then you got to go home and not kick the dog. Like being a happy warrior. You're being a happy warrior throughout the whole process. And then your challenge is, how do I go home and not kick the dog? 5, 24/7 accountability. There's no such thing as, quote, off. And that's why I go to the Alpines. Because I go to the Alpines because my phone doesn't work up there.
I'm trying to think of ones I can add, and maybe at the end I will.
Yeah.
This one I would say there is off time then, because you do that and blah blah blah.
But you got but that's
you
like,
gotta make it.
You gotta like get out of the grid.
Yeah.
If you're an owner, like you need to. That's why so many of these other CEOs you hear about, they go to like South America and stuff. Peru. One of the general contractor that we used to work with a lot, he would go to Peru and you couldn't get a hold of him for like weeks.
Yep.
Do ayahuasca and stuff. I'm serious. But like he would come back and then he would like he was in he's I don't like his wife, but I like him, and he was an immovable object. You know what I mean? So like something that he was learning there.
Yep.
Taught him how to be stoic.
Know what people should know what I will do, and maybe people will. I'm gonna try it. Saturday morning, maybe even Friday. Just put my plane on airplane mode until.
Put his phone on airplane mode.
Yep. But did I say put my airplane on airplane mode? That'd be awesome.
You said plane.
Put my plane on it.
Which it should be on airplane mode.
And put it in the pantry until, let's just say, 5 o'clock on Saturday. Here's why. I'll tell you why. Because then if I want to relax, look at Twitter, get myself riled up, whatever.
Yeah.
And then do that. And then after that, when I watch a movie with my wife, put it back on airplane mode, back in the pantry until later Sunday. Maybe catch up on if any news happened, Sunday night, and that's it.
Yeah. This one really hit me pretty deep lately because I've been doing, Al and I do sales all the time, but like there's been a lot of sales lately, and it can get exhausting chasing work. So number 6 is selling the dream daily to clients, to the team, and to yourself. And if you're like, sales a lot of times reminds me of when I attempted stand-up. And like I went up on stage like 3 times, I think. And no, I'm not going to show you guys the footage. But what I learned after doing that, I was like, yeah, I could probably make people laugh. I'm not sure I can make a living out of it, but like if I wanted to pick this up as a hobby, I could do it. But I don't want to tell the same jokes over and over again. Like that sounds, it's felt real icky right away. I mean, we try to bring fresh content to this show, right? It's kind of like that. So like selling can get a little repetitive. And then, repeating it. So what do you do? You got to refresh yourself. You got to go to the Alpines. You got to go do whatever Al's doing. You got to take a break. You got to refresh. You got to recharge for that one. Training while producing, number 7. Number 8, managing risk on every front. That's a huge one. Adapting on the fly every damn day. That's a big one. Like, I can't, like, I've been accused of being very rigid before, and like, this is sort of one of these myths that I've dispelled for myself, too, about the sympathy versus empathy. And you've heard other people who have listened to this show or, like, listen to me guesting on other shows. I talk about that a lot and dispelling that myth. And the rigidity one, I just don't even buy at all anymore. I'm like, what? Like I am rolling with the punches so much. But the whole point of this is, and the last one is, owning nearly every mistake, even when it's not yours. Those are all behind the scenes. Those are all, and we're exposing it now, right? So if you're thinking about owning a business, if you're listening to this show and you're like, you know what? I'm a project architect. I'm a senior project architect. I've been at whatever firm for 8 to 10 years, and you're like, I think I'm ready to start my own. Are you? Like, does this give you more appreciation for what your boss does? Bosses, it should give you more appreciation for yourself. And then you need to figure out if you're becoming self-aware, right? We already talked about this once. It's like, how do you then mitigate this stuff so it doesn't permeate into your personal life, permeate into the professional life, and you start having that negative energy. Yeah. Last thing I'll say is this so that's why, like, entrepreneurship, it's not for everybody. It's not supposed to be. And I think we lost sight of that with the social media influencer movement, right? Where it just looks like everybody's just making money. You just make money, and it's like, man, I wish more people. I wish entrepreneurs were more venerated than they are right now, instead of looked at as evil, especially with like the whole Elon Musk thing going on. It's like, man, those people really carry a big weight on their back every day.
Yeah. I'm listening to a podcast when I can called Your First Million. And then also, what's the other one? Alex Hormozy. And one of the themes that both of them are trying to pick apart too is because everyone loves to tell their story of success. And especially on Your First Million, there's this guy, I can't remember which one of the hosts it is, but he always deals into like, oh, when was there a mistake? When did it, like not work out and stuff like that? And then they always like, they wouldn't say it unless it's prompted. And then they go into like just horror stories of just overstressed, quote unquote dumb decisions, but you don't know it's a dumb decision, and just terribleness. But without those questions, it always looks like, yeah, then we went to like 500,000, then we went to 1 million, then we went to 1.7, then we went to 8. It's like, oh, that's how it went, when that's not really how it went.
Yeah. Cool. This is a short and sweet one, as usual. If you like this episode, you're watching on the YouTube, like, subscribe, share with your mother. If you're listening on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. Thanks to Jason Altman, as usual, for being the MVP. Nate Hacker, I'm sorry that I didn't give you credit last episode for the LinkedIn post you shared with us. Al Gore?
Philadelphia rocks. New Jersey is the place to be. I just wanted to put that out there randomly under no peer pressure whatsoever from any sort of group or people that I'm in. That those places, top notch.
See you next week.